Hey guys, Ivan here, and in today's video we got something really interesting. Yeah, we got another Andrew Jacked comparison. I know I did probably too many of those this week, but this is the last one, I promise, and this one had to be done. Because this is, in my opinion, the most likely scenario to happen at the Mr Olympia 2024. I believe Andrew Jacked and Nick Walker are very likely to have a call-out of their own. I think it's very possible to see these two guys compared and battle for that fourth spot at a Mr Olympia. There is a possibility of Andrew Jacked being compared to Derek or Hadi or Samson, and maybe this will never happen, but at least we're gonna cover it right here. So let's see who would win if these two guys were in a two-man call-out, or at least if they were fighting for the same spot, which I think again is most likely to happen. Now we're gonna start with the front double bicep, and I gotta say this comparison is a clear case of apples and oranges. So Andrew Jacked is shapely and symmetrical and tall and aesthetic, and Nick Walker is short and rugged and freaky. So two completely different type of physiques, but again very close as far as overall bodybuilding criteria. They have certain strengths and certain weaknesses, so let's compare these two guys pose for pose, all 8 poses, and let's see who wins the majority of the poses. So the first one, of course, is the front double bicep, and with Nick's waist, the way it was at his last showing, I don't know if he can go against Andrew Jacked in this pose. Basically, in majority of the front poses, really. Now, Nick has crazy, massive arms, and that's definitely his strength. But front double bicep, yeah, it's called double bicep, but it's not really that much about biceps. And Andrew also has decent biceps. Yeah, his forearms are, kind of slim because he has very long arms. And the biceps and triceps are big, but they're kind of short. And Nick's are like very full and also like super peaky. So in like the arms, Nick wins. But everything else, the chest thickness in this pose, the lat pop, the waist to shoulder ratio, the waist to leg ratio, and like the overall V-taper or the X-frame, Andrew Jacked now, especially now, wins this one hands down. The next pose will be side chest. Now, as you guys know, side chest is Andrew's weakest pose by far, definitely the weakest one. He improved it for sure compared to last year, but it's still his weakest one. And Nick is looking great in the side pose, especially side chest, because he's showing great density, like through the chest and arms and shoulders as well, and like his side leg looks phenomenal, even though his legs are a weak point. I mean, his quads from the front, especially in the side pose, it's not really obvious. Like his quads have a good height to them and like good density, and like the hamstrings, I mean, he's known for his hamstrings, they're hanging very low. The glutes have some separation, and his midsection, at least here, it doesn't look any worse than Andrew Jacked. I mean, Andrew has no gut, no problem of that sort, but he's also like not pulling the stomach in too much. So in the midsection area, this is looking very similar. So Nick definitely has a lot more density, a lot more width to the shoulders, much thicker legs. Even though he's a lot shorter, I believe this is the correct ratio. I'm not sure, but I think it's close to what it's gonna be on the stage. I definitely have Nick Walker winning in the side chest pose. Alright, so we've seen the front, we've seen the side. Now let's turn these guys to the back, and let's start with the back double bicep. Very much improved pose of Andrew Jacked, but can he beat Nick Walker in this one? Well, like as far as the back itself, Andrew has some pretty good depth to the back. Like the lats and the traps, everything is very separate, everything is very deep. Like there is solid thickness in that back. I would like to see maybe more separation in the lats, in the lower back, but it's still looking decent, the back itself. However, the lower body, it's a different story. I mean, Nick definitely has a lot more separation and a lot more muscle in the hamstrings. Check this out. It's basically night and day difference. Nick's hamstrings are absolutely nuts. One of the best hamstrings in the history of bodybuilding, if you ask me. All the heads of the hamstrings are super developed, they're massive, and the conditioning is good enough so you can see every single head very separated, popping out of the screen, like everything is looking super 3D, and like the glutes. I mean, this wasn't basically his best condition. It was good condition, but it wasn't his best. However, still his glutes are showing those freaking lines, and Andrew, you know, he just can't really bring that out. Maybe it's gonna be better on the Mr. Olympia stage, but so far it never looked any better than this. So as far as the lower body, Nick destroys Andrew in this one. Upper body, however, the back itself, you can argue and make the point that Andrew actually looks better because like he has probably more details, more depth to everything. But you know, then again, the arms and the shoulders, Nick is probably, you know, bigger there. So, you know, back itself, it's close. Lower body, it's not close at all. Arms and shoulders, it's definitely Nick. So overall, Nick is winning a back double bicep. Now, what about the other back pose? Back lat spread? It's really not that much different from the back double bicep. Basically, Andrew actually looks very good in this one. Like, he has crazy width through the shoulders, and you know, his back is looking very good. But Nick, the way he was hitting this pose at the New York Pro, it was looking phenomenal. Like, the lats were super low, definitely lower inserted than Andrew's. The size and the width of that back was just crazy. Like, it looked enormous. And yeah, Andrew is taller, he's gonna look like a bigger man, but I don't think that's gonna help him too much. It never helped Samson against Hadi and Derek. So the only way Andrew can beat Nick in these two poses is if he somehow brings some kind of crazy details in the hamstrings, but I don't see enough muscle. Like, there is definitely not enough muscle, not nearly as much as there is on Nick's lower body from behind. Like, I don't think Andrew can ever have these kind of hamstrings and like glutes and everything, the legs from behind, like Nick does, calves I guess as well. So because of the lower body mainly, but then again also because the upper body is comparable, you can argue, you can tell me that maybe Andrew has better back, I don't know, but like the legs, it's not even close. So both back poses are won by Nick and the side chest pose. So right now it's 3-1 for Nick Walker. Alright, the next pose is very interesting. It's a most muscular pose. And this is not an aesthetic pose. This is the pose that shows freakiness, freak factor, you know, muscularity, density, conditioning, stuff like that. And Nick has a lot of that going for him. Like, there is a lot of freak factor, especially in this pose. But, because of his midsection, it's not an easy win for Nick. If Nick's waist was a little bit smaller, this pose would look so much better. But the way it is, even though he's doing this variation of most muscular and kind of hiding his waist with his arms, you can still see that the waist, it's really not helping his physique at all. And then Andrew, you know, with his long arms that are not nearly as big, as thick as Nick's, especially in this pose, he is also having some trouble winning this one. Andrew has great legs, and Nick doesn't have the best legs. But then Nick's adductors here, and like the vascularity and the details, I mean, his legs are also looking very freaky. But let's give legs to Andrew Jack, because they're definitely better shaped. Now, as far as chest, I don't think Nick has the best chest ever. It was one of his weaker points, especially earlier in his career. He got it, like, he brought it up big time. His chest is now pretty good. And Andrew, he has a really good chest. But he's, like, very tall and wide, so his chest, in comparison to the rest of his structure, his physique, it doesn't look, like, super massive. And his shoulders, Andrew's shoulders are big, but they're not as big as Nick's, especially in this pose, the way he's hitting this pose. The arms, again, it's not even close, the forearms as well. So this one, I don't know, man, it's a toss-up. I'm probably slightly more inclined towards Nick Walker. I think he probably wins this one because of his crazy freak factor and crazy density and like so much muscle with his conditioning. But then that midsection and waistline really throws me off, and Andrew has a phenomenal midsection and super small waist. So it's a close one. I mean, I would probably go with Nick, but let's say this one is a tie. So let's say that makes it 4-2 for Nick Walker. Now, the other three poses, for some reason, Nick did not hit in his posing routine. I understand why he didn't hit the abs and thighs and front lat spread, but I don't know why he didn't hit the side tricep. That's like one of his best poses. And, I mean, you can argue that Andrew looks better, but he's hitting this pose in a way that is not acceptable. And Tyler Mannion said that they're not going to be accepting this variation of the side tricep. You can hit the abs and thighs with like one hand on the hip, but the side tricep needs to be from the side. It can be front tricep. And Nick in the side tricep, he actually looks phenomenal. Like, he knows how to pull that stomach in, and like with those freaking blocks of the abs, and then again with his legs looking super thick, and like with those freaking arms, and pretty good chest. Yeah, I think he probably wins this one. I don't know if Andrew's gonna change the way he's hitting this pose. I mean, if he does, he's still probably going to lose against Nick in this one, because like when he turns to the side, you can see how slim he actually is, like in the side chest. I mean, he improved, sure, but yeah, I don't have him winning side tricep against Nick Walker, no way. That makes it 5-2 for Nick in poses. Now we come to the front lat spread, probably Nick's worst pose, and probably Andrew's best pose. There isn't really much to say about this one. Andrew wins this one easily. He destroys Nick in this one. I mean, I don't even want to go over this one. Like, I can focus on Nick's waist and his quads and his lats. It's just not looking very good. It's not flowing very well. His structure is just not allowing him to look good in the front lat spread, and this again is Andrew's best pose. So he wins this one quite easily. That's 5-3 for Nick Walker. And the last pose is going to be abs and thighs. Again, second best pose of Andrew Jacked, if not the best one. And the second weakest pose of Nick Walker, if not the weakest one. So there isn't really much to say about this one as well. I mean, Nick can look good in the abs and thighs, especially like early in his career when his waist was even smaller, but he would never beat Andrew Jacked in this one. So this one won by Andrew Jacked easily once again, and that's 5-4 for Nick Walker. So pose for pose, at least in my opinion, Nick wins this comparison, but this doesn't mean that Nick is going to place ahead of Andrew Jacked, because it's not all about the poses, there is a lot about the transitions. You guys know that Phil Heath lost to Sean Roden because of the transitions, because of his midsection and so on, the flow of the physique, stuff like that. But you can also argue that guys like Sean Ray and Flex Wheeler could have beaten Dorian Yates because they looked better in transitions, but Dorian won because he won majority of the poses. So I don't know who's gonna place ahead of who. Like, just looking at the Andrew Jacked, you would probably say that he is better than Nick Walker, but then again, if you look at the poses, pose for pose, you can see that Nick actually wins a lot of poses. He is good in his poses and he knows how to hold them, how to hit them, so this is gonna be really interesting. Once again, a case of apples and oranges. Whoever you guys think is gonna win in this one, tell me down below in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. For more content like this, guys, stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. See you soon. All the best, and bye-bye.